All right. Hello, good afternoon, and a very warm welcome to this afternoon session. You're in the Fast Start with AWS breakout session. And it's my great pleasure to welcome you all to the Meet the Builders panel. My name is Cleeland Nicholls. I'm the Director of Communications at AWS here in Asia, and I'm based right here in Singapore, where I've lived for the past 12 years. At AWS, we understand that a higher rate of experimentation will lead to more ideas and more innovation, and potentially ideas that have the possibility of expanding the relevance and the scope of business. We're often asked by customers, what goes on behind the scenes at AWS? How do we respond to requests from customers around new products, around new services? How do we respond to feedback? And how do we create a culture of innovation where the intention to invent and simplify for our customers is at the heart of everything we do? Now, we don't pretend to have all of the answers, and we also don't suggest that what works for us is going to work for everybody. But because these are questions we're very frequently asked, we decided to create a panel this afternoon of builders from around ASEAN and internationally to share with you some ideas. And we hope that this is going to inspire you and send you back to your workplaces, maybe with some new thoughts, some new ways of doing things, and some inspiration, and you can riff on some of these ideas in your own workplace. So let me introduce these builders from around ASEAN, and I'll start at my right here with Mavis.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mavis Chuah, the Territory Sales for ASEAN. I've been in the company for about 3 years. It's been a fun and exciting journey here in AWS. Prior to this, I've helped to build several startups from a few people to a few hundred people across Southeast Asia, and I'm an active founder for an e-commerce startup.
Hi, this is Santanu Dutt. I've been part of AWS for nearly 7 years now. Most of my time was spent back in AWS business in India, in Mumbai, and more recently in Singapore, in the ASEAN region. I run the solutions architecture team for parts of ASEAN, and really it's been a fantastic journey. And one of the things that keeps me motivated to go to work every day is the diverse set of use cases that I see with our enterprise and startup customers.
Yeah, hi everyone. So I'm Walton. I'm responsible for the AWS business across Southeast Asia. I've been with AWS for almost exactly 7 years and moved to Singapore about 2.5 years ago. I love this region. I think it's such a dynamic and vibrant area and part of the world where there is this real optimism about the future that frankly is not seen in all parts of the world right now. And so we're really excited to see how customers are using the broad tool sets that we provide to do amazing new things. The thing I love about being with AWS, and this is as much true today as it was when I first started 7 years ago, and that is when you see really creative developers and engineers, when they have this light bulb moment that things that were previously impossible are now just an API call away, and they can write new applications that include things like speech, that include things like IoT and data from IoT devices and serverless technologies, which really transform the way you can develop applications. So yeah, it's a lot of fun to see that continue to happen.
Hi everyone, my name is Mylan Thompson-Bukovac. I'm the General Manager for Amazon S3, and I have been with AWS now for almost 8 years. I'm excited to sit here on this panel and talk to you more about the culture of innovation, because it's something that we live and breathe every day when we build our AWS services. And I know, I said in my keynote, and I believe it to be very true, that the spirit of entrepreneurship and innovation is very strong in Southeast Asia. And I think it's a natural pairing to have that and the innovation of the AWS platform, which can power it. Seeing it come together, it's amazing.
And Donnie.
Hello, builders. I'm Donnie Prakoso. I'm Technology Evangelist for ASEAN. This is my 6th month working with AWS. Prior joining AWS, I was CTO of startup in Indonesia, and I helped 4 other startups in Indonesia in e-commerce industry. Surprisingly, I was a lecturer as well in a few universities in Indonesia.
Thanks, Donnie. So for those of us at the AWS family, summit season is one of our favourite times of year. It's such a great buzz to see so many customers and partners come together and exchange expertise and ideas and have new ways of thinking come from those exchanges. Summit is not just a great platform to showcase the innovation and entrepreneurship that we see happening around ASEAN. It's also a really important time of year for us to connect with customers and to hear what they have to say. And of course, that's something that Nick Walton does every single day in his job. But what are you hearing from customers this season, Nick?
Yeah, so it is a great time to connect with a lot of customers, but yeah, we're always seeking feedback from customers. As I mentioned in the keynote this morning, more than 90% of our roadmap is driven by feedback from our customers and partners. And it's quite a unique way of approaching how you innovate. And we don't just innovate for the sake of innovation. We want to innovate in ways that are really useful to our customers and partners. And so we have a range of mechanisms that we employ to be able to elicit the right kind of feedback. One recent example is we released Aurora in the Singapore region. And a part of Aurora is, its architecture and the way it delivers, really exceptional availability is that it's built across 3 different availability zones. And so, we heard feedback from customers that they wanted Aurora among other services because they wanted to get off some of the proprietary database engines that they were on that weren't performing in the way they needed them to, or they cost too much, or they were suffering under, frankly, punitive licensing agreements. And so, the option for Aurora as an enterprise-grade database platform that's optimized and built for the cloud and is 1/10 of the cost of a traditional enterprise database engine, that was pretty exciting for a lot of customers. And we heard from customers that this is what they wanted. Globe Telecom is one good example, who are very, very keen to use Aurora. And so we took that feedback and used that to drive one of the services that we're going to deploy in the Singapore region. So we see this focus on customer and really listening to what customers are looking for. Day to day, we see it manifest in how we think about running the business. Another mechanism is our service teams, and we have amazing service teams who are genuinely amazingly focused on the customer. And it's very often where a service team in Seattle will reach out to me or someone in my team and say, hey, we want to talk to one of your customers because we're seeing them using technology in a certain way and we're really interested to get feedback. And we see that really it's very common. As well as our service team leaders, like Milan, come out and they're in the field and they're listening to customers and listening to what are some of the unique kind of requirements for different regions. So, Milan, I might pass to you to talk a bit about how you think about engaging with customers and keeping that central.
Yeah, I think it's very important, and in fact, it's a lot of the reason why we hire people that we do. So we have a lot of talent, engineering talent, but the universal truth among our engineering talent is that they've come to AWS because they know they can both be a low-level systems deep engineer while at the same time having that contact with customers. And I think for myself and for the team that I send out to talk to customers, they invariably come back and they bring that customer knowledge. So Nick, one example of that is that we'll send an engineer out as part of a group that goes to visit a customer. And in the course of their engineering, so for example, in a stand-up, the engineers will be talking, they'll be talking about different assignments and where they are, and an engineer will pipe up and say, I don't know, here's what that customer told me. I don't know if what we're building is exactly what that customer wants. And you don't get that type of conversation that happens on a developer-to-developer basis without having a culture that brings in what we call that customer voice into the day-to-day development and operations of how we run our AWS services.
Yeah, thank you. So I think, we've started to touch on what the builder culture is here at AWS. And I think it's fair to say that the way we approach the development and delivery of products and services is fundamentally different to other technology vendors. And at AWS and Amazon, it's important for us that we do hire builders. And by that, we mean builders in every function of the organization. All of us have that responsibility. So we're looking for people who have that kernel of restlessness about them, who'll challenge the status quo and who won't be satisfied until they're delivering something that really is inventing and simplifying for our customers. So speaking about that builder culture, can I ask you, Santanu, to talk about what you see in terms of a builder culture and how does that translate to how we deliver?
Right. Builders, as we define it, is really are builders who work backwards from customers, look at their problems, and then reinvent solutions by working iteratively on solutions. And as Mylan mentioned in our keynote today, builders aren't generally, we don't define builders generally necessarily by people who are the engineers writing code, but it's across our organization. So we're talking about solution architects, technical account managers, sales reps, business development, et cetera, even people who interface with customers to build different initiatives and campaigns, for example. And because the entire company, every single person is a builder, that mindset, that environment actually leads to a seamless environment of invention and pioneering. And this also fits right in terms of our customer centricity tenet, because what we've had, and my co-panelists will be aware of this, we have had this concept of keeping an empty chair in a meeting room to sort of represent a customer when we're talking about building something new, because that gives us a perspective to work backwards to what a customer would think of something that we're building. And this even includes something as basic as what seems very obvious today of things like training and certification. So in Southeast Asia, we've had customers in order of startups and enterprises adopting us over the years. And then there were enterprise customers like, let's say, Petronas Lubricants or AirAsia or DBS down here in Singapore, who told us that what would be nice is to have a structured training courses, online and offline, for their staff to enable them to understand a platform even better and deeper. And so that was a very simple example of building where we formed a training and certification team locally to specifically construct courses and content for such customers. And because this happens every day in the organization, it's absolutely refreshing.
Thank you, Santanu. What about you, Donnie? What's your perspective on the builder culture?
Thanks, Julie. As a CTO, developers, and R&D manager for more than 10 years, I think my opinion will be heavily influenced in both in technical aspects, both in development and startup world. So what I see in AWS that we agree with Nick that we are walking backwards from the customer's problems, and that we walk backwards to deliver the solution to give the value of our services. So I think this is really important. I have a story to tell that one of our customers, online media publishing company in Indonesia, Kumparan, as an online media publishing company, they are facing two challenges. The first one is how to get to market in time. And then the second is how to do it at scale. So we work together with them. We work closely together. And in the end, the result is they are able to manage the spike traffic up to 300% and cut the development time to 50% from 6 months to 3 months. And on top of that, we help them to save their spending up to 30%. So I think this is really important. And for me, the story really matters because it's a concrete example of our culture's manifestation, that we at AWS, we are able to see the problems. And then we walk backwards, we take notes, we take all the feedback from our customers, and we deliver the solution with our services. So we just don't stop until we get it right.
Yeah. I think one of the fundamental truths that we all have to deal with is that things are moving fast at the moment, and in fact that pace, the speed at which we move seems to be accelerating every day. Sometimes it feels like we're locked into a 24/7 cycle of develop, create, build, deliver, analyze, improve, and then starting it all over again. So as we're dealing with this incredible pace of change and the speed with which the markets that we're operating in are moving and evolving, At the same time, our organizations are often growing, and it's rare to be associating things like agility and ability to move really quickly with large organizations. So how do you keep that culture of innovation and ability to react quickly to changing market factors as the organization grows bigger? Mavis, you came from an entrepreneur background into a larger organization.
Yeah.
What's your experience?
Yes, that's really interesting. I came from an entrepreneur background. So in that startup journey, I was able to understand the gap in the market, experiment it with solution, and quickly turn around it with success formula that we have developed to the market. What surprises me here, even when I'm in AWS, I'm able to practice this builder's philosophy without a dull moment. And think about it, it is not not only about the numbers of global footprint that we have, pace of innovations of capabilities, services, or features that we make available for our customer. It's about the fast clip we are able to iterate based on customer feedback, what they tell us matter, and make it a reality to them. And this is largely due to the ownership that we carry for ourselves. We act as the owner of the business here. There's not a moment that I've heard any of my colleagues here saying that that's not my job. We are empowered to build tools. We are empowered to drive necessary changes, and processes has never been the same. Let me give you an interesting story that happened recently, and it's also why it is part of my exciting journey here in AWS, working with the amazing team here. I have a customer, iFlix. They are a video-on-demand delivery, drama and movie delivery streaming company. What they wanted to do is to expand into live streaming for sports, and this is new to them. But they have a problem. They were having performance issue with their current architecture and vendor. And they came to us with this problem. What is really amazing here is within 3 weeks, we were able to understand their challenges, understand their desired outcome, and managed to turn around the whole situation and go to production right before the football match. And the satisfying here is this clip. Not only that I'm able to deliver happiness to iFlix, my customer, it is also about my customers' customers. The 150,000 concurrent users and viewers was excited and happy with the performance and also the football match.
Excellent. Yes, you can't have a football match going down in the middle of a critical moment.
Yeah.
And how about you, Donnie?
Okay, so talking about innovation, I believe everyone here, we have the same characteristic. We have the DNA of the innovation. So that also means that we build things, and then we push things forwards, and we keep the bar, keep on raising, and we experiment until we get the solution into our problems. And talking about innovation, it's heavily embedded into our AWS culture. Let me tell this story. Like 4 years ago, 4 years ago, we had a customers notes. We had 100 of customers notes telling that they want to simplify the deployment process, and they don't want to have any repetition when they build new services. So we took the notes, and 4 years ago, exactly in November 2014, we launched AWS Lambda. So, and then now 4 years after that, 2018. Our customers, they love this innovation. And not only customers, our community outside there, you can see from a lot of tons of GitHub repositories that supporting Lambda. And that one is for serverless. Another case is about machine learning. Everyone knows that machine learning, building machine learning workloads is a heavy task to do. It's really complicated. First, you need to collect your data, and then you need to build your model, and then you need to train your model, and then you need to deploy your model, and then last one, you need to deploy at scale. But it doesn't end there. You need to retrain your model again, and then you need to redeploy your model again, and then you need to redeploy at scale your model again. It's like an endless loop, and it's really painful. So talking about innovations, we ask ourselves that how we can put machine learning in the hands of every data scientist, developers, machine learning enthusiasts, starting from getting started level, intermediate, to expert level, the builders, how we can put machine learning in the hands of all the builders. So last year, during the reInvent, we announced Amazon SageMaker. It's a new service that you can use to easily build, train, and deploy your machine learning model at scale. So for me, I think personally, I don't think that AWS is a cloud computing company. AWS is all about movement. And here we are now, all together here. We are building ecosystem that we all, everyone here, all in this together, to build the ecosystem, to shape it, so we can live a better world through technology. I really think that's really significant for me and for AWS and all the builders out there.
Building together. Thank you, Donnie. So the Amazon mission is to become Earth's most customer-centric company. And that's a really clear guiding principle that guides and informs all of the decisions and the activities that we undertake every day. Every organization has its own culture and vision. How do you see the Amazon vision informing what you do, and how does culture play out in our everyday work?
Right.
Santanu.
You know, culture, as you said, Julie, is probably the DNA of every organization. And for us at AWS and Amazon, it is possibly the principal component that drives innovation. There are a lot of mechanisms in place internally to ensure that the culture is pervasive and across geographies where we have employees. And one of the reasons for that is the upside that we see is huge. Almost everything that we've spoken about in our panel in the last 15 minutes, from having a builder mindset to having entrepreneurial mindset from your past jobs to having a culture of experimentation, is really a result of the culture. I can speak for us on the list of things that are a result of our culture. I'll probably name a couple of them. One thing that we have at AWS is just a culture of driving decisions with data, right? Everything that we do is driven by data, both internally and externally. And it varies from simple forms of collecting data, as simple as in a forum like this, from summits where we take feedback from each of the attendees and then actually iterate to see what customers are wanting to watch in terms of keynotes, content, and breakout tracks, and then we design our next set of events and summits according to that. And then there are other forms of more sophisticated sort of data collection mechanism in terms of analytics and machine learning that Amazon has been doing for years. Even our customers, including enterprise customers, recently have given us feedback that they actually start to see AWS with a differentiating culture. For example, we are a very, very long-term facing company because we are here to really build relationships with our customers that outlast us all. And really, we are not a company that shows on the doorstep of a customer on the last day of a quarter, because we are very long-term facing. And so culture is a big part of what's made my journey in Amazon for the last 7 years very, very enriching.
Thanks, Santanu. And Mavis, what about from your point of view?
For me, it's a lot about learning. It has been an accelerated learning here for me in AWS. We do things very quickly. We run at a very fast pace, and but we also act very flexibly in many, many ways. We are never done learning here, and we are never done seeking ways to improve ourselves, to iterate our mechanisms. And it is also because of this tenacity, it has helped someone like me who is non-technical background to take on a lot more learnings in the technical side to be able to engage with my customers better. For example, I've took on some certifications like cloud practitioners, associate solution architect, to be able to understand technical solutions and be able to give better recommendations and suggestions to my customers over discussion and conversation. And we always say learning is a lifelong journey, right?
Yeah. It is, absolutely. So Mylan, what about your point of view in terms of culture and how that plays out in how we respond and what that means to you?
Well, culture is actually a very hard thing for any organization, either to change a culture, to establish a new culture, or just to maintain your existing culture. And so the way that I think about it is that everybody who's in an organization has a responsibility to believe in the culture and to take steps, practical, concrete steps that they themselves bring to the act of either changing or sustaining a culture. I'll give you an example. So as you know, I'm the general manager for Amazon S3. And so I, in the course of my day, will review technical plans, I'll review the business, I'll take a look at the P&L. There's a lot of different aspects of the business that I'm reviewing on a daily basis. And almost every single hour, I am asking a question that relates back to the customer experience. I do a technical review of architecture. I'll ask, how does this change the customer experience? If an engineering lead comes back and tells me, it doesn't, then I'll ask them again. It probably does. Even if you're building one of many systems that power Amazon S3, if that system goes down, it's going to have an impact on the customer experience. Or how does it operate under incredibly high load if we, for some reason, have huge surge in demand across a region? Everything we build has an impact on the customer experience. And so in every meeting I have, I'll ask that very simple question. Great, what's the impact on the customer experience? And when I do that as a leader of an AWS service, then it's basically showing to an organization this customer experience thing is really important. And at all levels of the organization, they're asking that. They're asking that in the dev stand-ups. They're asking that in the team meeting. That's an interesting change. Maybe we should do it. How does it change the customer experience? And so these are the concrete things that you can do. Another thing you can do as a leader is you can say, what's your proposal? It's a pretty loaded question. Somebody's talking to you about a problem. Somebody's saying that there's something that we have to go fix, and you just come back and say, I am open to a proposal. What is your proposal? And you do that across a variety of domains. What you're doing is you're training your organization to know that all ideas are open. And if you can drive it with data, and you know it's going to have a customer impact, and you just take the time to think it through in a detail-oriented way, you can have an impact, a broad impact across your organization. And so it's those artifacts, those things, those what we call in Amazon mechanisms that you do that help change, retain, and enact the culture that you want.
Nick, what about from an ASEAN lens?
Yeah, so this focus on customer is something that, you know, Amazon is a customer focused organization, and yeah, I think the examples that Mylan's talking about at the service level is really interesting. We see that manifest itself, you know, in the kinds of services that are built. From the team that I'm responsible for, you know, we're interacting with customers all the time, and you know, I know the very best feedback that I can get from a customer is when a customer says, when we're working with Amazon, it feels different because you're genuinely focused on our success. And I think in terms of challenging my team, you know, that's what I want to see is, are we genuinely focused on helping our customers be successful? So you know, I think that's a very central part of how we operate. And the beauty of this strategy is that humans are never satisfied. And so it's a great long-term strategy because it doesn't matter, you know, how well you're doing, there's always more to do. There's more that you can do on behalf of customers. And so it allows you to really focus for the long term on how do we do more and more to deliver more value to customers and ultimately help them be successful. So, you know, we're far from perfect, but this is what we aspire to do. Yeah, I would say, you know, if you hear great feedback in terms of how you're engaging with our account teams and field teams, you know, I'd love to hear it. Equally, if you don't think we're doing a good job, then, you know, we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can. So I'd love to know feedback where we're not really doing everything we can and as focused on customer success as we can be, because it's really important to us as an organisation.
Absolutely. So we're almost at the top of our time, and I'm going to ask Mylan if you have a few closing words for the audience before we leave.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming to this summit. I think one of the things that I said at the keynote this morning is that this spirit of invention is very much alive in Southeast Asia. And if there's any great combination, it's that natural spirit of innovation, and it's AWS. And what we're looking for is, in your day of learning, how can we be better? This morning I talked about the well-architected framework as a way that we've taken all the input that you've given us over the years, and we put it together in some best practices and some guidance. That is a living document, and that living document is really for you. It's the practices. It's what you've told us. Don't just go give me technology. Give me the experience you've built up over 12 years and give it to me in a format that I can use as a playbook for my digital transformation. So thank you so much for coming. Keep the feedback coming our direction and help us continue to be the best platform for you for this digital transformation.
Thank you. So we're the builders at AWS because you give us the opportunity to build with you and for you, and we are immensely grateful for that privilege. Our commitment is that we will keep on building for you and with you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your time at AWS Summit and build on. Thank you.